Starting off with number 10, as a royal and someone with a solid acting career, it is interesting to see this royal couple ranked as D-list celebrities. That's right, not even the royals can hang. Am I the only one who finds it crazy that as royals these two aren't even A-list? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are not yet considered A-list celebrities since they still haven't been invited to Barack Obama's 60th birthday, according to a royal expert. The former US president turned 60 in August, but their absence from his milestone celebration appears to be a telling sign that the Sussexes aren't as famous as they'd perhaps like to be. Speaking at the Henley Literary Festival, royal biographer Tina Brown said it's not very pleasant to be a D-list celebrity who for them doesn't have enough money. It's a wholly different game to be with those super rich people. Regardless of the reasons they made their decision to leave, it was hard to see this once loved couple set themselves up to become one of the most problematic and hated people. That is an insane way to change your life. In number 9, it was a known fact that many did sympathize with the Sussexes' complaints about their cold reception in Britain and a few royal protocols that did not sit well with them. But their latest accusations against the palace and the press feel wild and over the top, which is not doing them any favors in the opinions polls either. According to sources, the Sussexes are now among the most unpopular public figures in Britain. I know, shocking, right? The couple have a net rating of -26. Harry's ratings, according to YouGov, have crashed by 13 points since the documentary to -26, while Meghan's are reaching -39. The only royal who is more disliked than both is Prince Andrew. Meanwhile, William and Catherine, the Prince and Princess of Wales, enjoy net ratings of +62 and +57, respectively. Props to them. Fox News columnist Lee Cohen suggested Meghan and Harry are on track to be more hated than the Duke of Windsor and Wallis Simpson. Cohen said, like the Windsors before them, the Sussexes have fallen out of favor in Britain for their indecorous behavior. But while the Duke of Windsor let his people down by being irresponsible, he and his wife did not seek the spotlight in any meaningful way, nor did they exist as the Sussexes seem to, hell-bent to destroy the monarchy. Harry didn't seem to have any problems throwing his brother, father, and even grandmother, the recently departed Queen, under a big red double-decker London bus. But can you blame him? Not since Princess Diana, Harry's mother, gave her infamous interview in 1995 in which she explosively revealed, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Has someone tried to cause this much damage to the royal family?" In number 8, the attempts to portray Meghan as the innocent victim who gave up her life to be a multi-millionaire royal duchess living in a $15 million mansion fell short of what they were hoping for, that Harry and Meghan need to leave this country to avoid tragedy. After the release of their Netflix docuseries, are we really surprised to find out that this couple may have made matters worse for themselves? I mean, you're asking for attention at this point. To start, the point of this doc was probably to show them as victims of some tragedy, but when their lies were starting to become exposed, a whole lot of people started looking at this couple differently. Because at that point, it's like, what exactly are you making a 6-part series for if the things mentioned in it are not credible? According to the series, Meghan was shocked to discover that joining the royals wasn't like the Princess Diaries. Now there's a surprise. She claimed she had gotten no lessons in etiquette, wasn't taught to curtsy, and was caught off guard when she had to do so at a surprise first meeting with the late Queen Elizabeth II. Like someone give Meg the royal lessons. This contradicts reports that the Queen suggested Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, might be able to help her ease into royal life. So who here is lying? Given the deep rift between Buckingham Palace and the Sussexes, there won't be any royal talking head in the series, not even Princess Eugenie, the one member of the firm the Sussexes are still on good terms with. Vogue editor Edward Enninful isn't involved in the project despite being on good terms with the couple, it has been claimed. Apparently, Meghan and Harry, the 5th in line to the throne, were surprised there was a hierarchy within the monarchy. As someone who's been part of a long line of royals, their shock at how the monarchy works is pretty comical, because what do you mean it's shocking that there is a hierarchy? Let's be serious for 1 second, Harry and Meghan. It makes this couple look kind of pathetic because you claim you want to live a more normal private life, and while I agree that no one should have their privacy invaded, doing all that just for a more controlled media narrative where you can be in charge of the story just to get caught for lying is just a little embarrassing. What do you guys think? Moving into number 7, their humble cottage. When Meghan and Harry left the royal family, they really left. Now they have settled in LA with no regards to living up to that lifestyle. In Montecito, where they live in their $14 million mansion, is a humble cottage compared to what these other people have. I mean, 14 million is still a lot, but anyway. Word on the street is that Harry's tell-all biography may never be published. Even though they've taken all this money and Harry has made this book deal where he's supposed to spill everything about his horrible life as a royal, he might be having second thoughts because he understands there is no way back if he publishes it. Better think long and hard about this one, Harry. Royal biographer Tina Brown stated that the window is beginning to close, but always thought at some point a deal would be made and Charles would have to pay back the advance to stop Harry from writing this book. Brown was one of the last people to see Diana before she passed away at a lunch in New York in the summer of 1997. When asked what advice she'd believed Diana would have given to her son if she were alive today, Brown said the princess would have advised him to return to the family fold. Didn't see that coming. What do you think Harry should do? Comment down below. In number 6, it's pretty obvious that Prince Harry will not become king now. Even though the chances were already slim after stepping down, it is most definitely out of the question that we'd see this couple earn the royal titles as King and Queen of England. Damn, y'all really dropped the bag. After creating a lot of drama which led to a lot of backlash, the surprising news was followed by a statement addressing why they will no longer be using their titles and walking away. To summarize it, they wanted to transition into a progressive role and work to become financially independent while continuing to support the Queen from a distance. After their bold and controversial statement, they received a substantial sum from King Charles to help make their transition easier, but the funding stopped in the summer of 2020. Damn, you guys got cut off just like that? Now that they've been cut off from any financial support from the royals, the lavish lifestyle might be a little harder to keep up with. 5th on today's top 10, remember when Meghan used to act? She may say she has retired, but all the drama that has been following her ironically seems like an act in itself. The most LA thing to do, Meghan now hosts a podcast called Archetypes, where she's joined by other famous guests such as Mariah Carey, Serena Williams, and Paris Hilton. Okay, but she's still a D-lister? That's kind of embarrassing. She used to run a successful lifestyle blog, The Tig, which she shut down after getting engaged. The blog made her an estimated $80,000 a year from sponsorships and endorsement deals. Okay, I see you, Meg. Back when the couple made the decision to leave, Meghan signed a voiceover deal with Disney and a contribution of her salary was given to wildlife charity Elephants Without Borders. Meghan's net worth before retiring was around $5 million, making $50,000 each episode for her role on Suits and a combined $360,000 from her roles in the movies she'd done back in 2010. Back when she was still living at the palace, the royals suggested that she shouldn't need to give up her acting career fully, but she insisted on leaving. From Hollywood to royal and now just hated by the public, that's a huge downgrade. I wonder if she regrets that move or if she would ever consider picking up where she left off. Do you see Meg going back to acting? Let me know in the comments. Counting down to number 4, Harry was stripped of his military titles, spending a lot of his life serving in the military to losing the title passed on to him from his grandfather Prince Philip. Another role he will no longer serve is as Commodore-in-Chief for small ships and diving in the Royal Navy. I think we can agree that's probably for the best. Meghan had to surrender her patronage of the National Theatre, but is able to keep her small private patronages which offer coaching to unemployed women. Harry will also be able to keep a number of private patronages, including for a sporting competition for wounded service personnel that he founded. So essentially, they didn't lose everything, but it sure seems like it. For one, their reputation is damaged. They don't have the support of a lot of people in the UK, and after their docuseries, Americans also feel a way about this couple. So really, it does sound like they keep digging themselves a deeper hole. Tina Brown has made comments about Meghan's house hunting and said that they live in a humble cottage compared to their neighbors. The Duchess is looking into purchasing another home, not as bougie as the ones owned by super rich A-listers like Oprah Winfrey or Elon Musk. Apparently, Meghan and Harry's estimated net worth is about $22 million, compared to Tyler Perry, who hosted the royal couple while they were moving to the US, has an approximated net worth of $880 million. So in comparison, the royal couple are Hollywood poor. Damn, y'all are broke. I'm just kidding, but damn, they aren't even fitting in Hollywood. Coming down to number 2, trademark drama. Following their decision to step down, the palace announced that the couple's personal foundation, Sussex Royal, the foundation of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, was not allowed to use the term Sussex Royal. Damn, they said you cannot have the clout. After the trademark applications were removed, they did release a statement saying that they do not intend to use the term royal after their transition in the spring of 2020. But of course, there was a lot of back and forth because they were not allowed to have the term Sussex Royal anymore. I mean, what did you expect, Harry and Meg? You aren't working royals, so it wouldn't even make sense to have that term in the name of your foundation. Just like most of the royal drama we've been discussing, this one is really juicy because the late queen was pretty disappointed that the couple was bringing all this unnecessary and unwanted attention to the family. Well, to say the least, the queen was not pleased with them. If you piss off the queen, you should definitely be careful of what your next moves are going to be. Like, come on guys, if you want no attention, don't do so much to get it. Last but not least, number 1 on our list. Let's summarize everything this royal couple has lost on their way out of the palace. We already know they have not been receiving any royal funds. As working royals, they used to receive 95% of their annual income from Harry's father. That's an insane bag to fumble, but somehow they managed to not only lose that, but much more. Their security arrangements were also taken back. They lost a lot of their royal titles, the support of their family, and even fans who were once sympathetic to their situation. They were unable to keep the Frogmore cottage, which was gifted by the late queen when they got married, which they offered to repay after they had stepped down. Not to mention, they lost respect from a lot of people who looked up to them during their time as royals. Their reputation has become very questionable after the allegations that have come out about them lying in the Oprah interview and their docuseries. Their ratings just keep on dropping. Yikes. Anything else I missed? Do we think this couple is digging their own grave? As hard as it clearly seems for this couple to stay in the shadows, that might be their best bet for now. But then again, how else would they plan on making their money if they aren't finding all these easy cash grabs, which are in turn ruining their reputation? I guess we'll find out if Harry decides to continue exploiting the royal family by making another project about the family. Starting off with number 10, breaking royal protocols. This may come as a shock to many, but the couple has reportedly broken quite a few protocols during their time as a royal couple. And obviously, I am here to tell you all the tea. Did you know the queen was known to dislike wedged heels? I mean, girl, same. Those shoes are not cute. Kate once wore a pair during a royal visit to a cider farm. After finding out the queen did not approve, Kate started wearing wedge heels at events where the queen wouldn't be present. As harmless as this sounds, it is always fun to see the future queen doing something she should not be doing, and as mediocre as the taste of footwear may seem, they do take their fashion choices very seriously in order to seem ladylike. Like, damn Kate, all this for a pair of wedges? What are those?
What are those?
They are my Crocs.
Seriously, Kate, you need some fashion advice. There have been quite a few other times the future queen has broken royal protocols. With some Marilyn Monroe moments, a few pictures showing Kate's dress flying up because of the wind was met with controversial statements regarding her fashion choices. One photographer even managed to get a shot of her bottom while her dress was flared up on a windy day. Like, ew, that's just invasive. And even though the palace was furious, calling the pic a grotesque invasion of privacy, I mean, what else is new when it comes to the royals? The worse the pic is, the easier it is for the media to bank off this family. Coming in number 9, Kate and Will are one step closer to becoming king and queen, but can we just take in all the drama and controversies they've been involved in? With multiple allegations, including accusations of being racist, it's no surprise that a lot of people do not favor the royals and are not excited to watch the couple eventually become the king and queen of England. After being seen courtside at a Celtics versus Miami Heat game, I see you, Kate and Will. Fans were not appreciative and were booing the couple while chanting USA. It's kind of funny to think that coming to America for the first time in 8 years would result in boos. But with very recent racist allegations against one of their staff members, sports fans were not planning on welcoming the royals with open arms. Can you blame them though? The allegations came after Ngozi Fulani, an attendee from a domestic abuse charity, was met with repeated questions regarding where she was really from. After exposing the royal member of the ignorant questions, Fulani spoke about how she questioned how this could happen in a space that's supposed to protect women against all kinds of violence. Go Ngozi, put these royals in their place. A Kensington Palace spokesperson made a statement mentioning their disappointment in Fulani's experience and that racism has no place in their society. This statement clearly wasn't enough since it was clear the American sports fans did not want the couple sitting in the arena with them. I mean, according to Prince William, they are very much not a racist family. Considering they're still trying to recover from the departure of Meghan and Harry, all these recent accusations just don't seem to support his statement. But I guess we'll see if they decide to take a closer look at their actions and those working for the royals. Next on the list, their rocky relationship started before their official engagement. After breaking up a couple times before getting back together and eventually getting married. Whew, I'm out of breath. Who can keep up with these two? It was revealed that Prince William ultimately broke up with Kate Middleton over the phone while she was at work. Girl, on the phone? Damn, even as a prince, he isn't charming. Having been with Kate throughout college, William was having doubts about their relationship. Allegedly, Kate excused herself from work to hear William's reasons for wanting to break up, which were, I can't, it just isn't going to work. It isn't fair to you. Sounds like a lot of excuses if you ask me. Yikes. That's not even the juiciest part. The couple, who also took a break in the spring of 2004, led to the once wild Will, who was seen dancing with other women during a vacay. He even hired an all-female crew for a yacht trip in Greece. Like, this isn't Mamma Mia, Will. Kate was also seen to be doing her own thing after becoming freshly single from their relationship. Between taking trips to Ireland and Ibiza, Kate was spotted with an heir to the British shipping fortune. As savage as it sounds, the royal prince chose the least considerate ways to break up with Kate, who is now the future Queen of England. What a story. Eventually ending up together, all their history just seems like a fun tale to tell their kids now. On to number 7, Kate and Will's spendings, which have been coming under scrutiny. In an attempt to seem relatable, Kate and her 2 younger kids were seen flying economy. What a headline. Like, damn Kate, we are so similar. There were people who accused the royal palace for scripting this to take the heat off their major financial decisions. Someone come get this girl a financial advisor immediately. These people are onto this royal family's habits, and some are not falling for this, trying to be relatable moment. Because even though this mom taking her kids to their grandparents' house sounds super normal, it's the fact that the grandparents' house is actually a 52-bedroom castle, and Will and Prince George are flying separately following royal protocol. Yeah guys, my grandparents don't own a castle. So basically, there's really no point in the couple's attempts to seem like regular people living their regular lives as if they aren't part of the royal monarchy. If you think about it, it's kind of funny to think that one of the actual concerns this family has is to literally try to be more relatable. On to number 6, speaking of major financial decisions, the couple just added a 3rd home to their list of properties. The Adelaide cottage features a ceiling with gilded dolphins, 2 staterooms, and is set on a privately owned park in the middle of suburban London. What a great way to seem super relatable, Kate and Will. Adding another house to your already stacked roster isn't an ideal look when your country is in the midst of a housing crisis. The newly appointed King Charles wants to move the couple into Windsor Castle. Will and Kate's main priority is for their kids to get their education with as little hassle as possible, so they may possibly stay in this castle for the next decade or so. Oh, to live in a castle and avoid all responsibility. Seems like the Cambridge kids are living my dream right now. The couple's relationship hasn't always been the most perfect. As normal as that sounds, royalty surrounding the two has been in and out of the spotlight for years. Remember when Prince William was accused of cheating on Kate? Yeah, the king's son is also a cheater. Who would have thought? When Kate confronted him, all he did was laugh and told her there was nothing to worry about. That sounds like major gaslighting to me. Although the rumors were never confirmed, we can only hope they move on from this royal drama in a healthy way if they want to see the throne as king and queen together. It seems like there's a trend for members to walk out the royal palace when something is not up to their standards. We saw it when Princess Diana divorced King Charles, and more recently when Meghan and Harry bid their royal duties farewell too. Are Kate and William next? I guess time will tell. And even though the couple has dealt with a lot of criticism over the years, you can literally never predict what will happen next in the royal household. On to number 4, as part of the Windsor move, Will and Kate have decided to give their kids the most royal education, enrolling them in the Lambrook School, where tuition can cost up to $30,000 a year per child. I'm sorry, you lost me at $30,000 a year. The institution includes a 9-hole golf course, a veggie patch for each class, and they plant 300 trees a year. I would also hope to offset the carbon footprint if that much was being spent on my education. Their lavish spendings don't just stop on their children. While Kate's spendiest year was 2017, when she was estimated to have spent nearly $150,000, her love of a rewear hasn't kept her clothing tab from hitting what the rest of us might earn in a year, if we're lucky. While these calculations are always imperfect, especially when she commissions custom gowns, this year so far, Kate's new clothing has easily totaled in the tens of thousands. Her collection of new $2,000 Alessandra rich dresses alone would pay someone's rent for a year. A new Amelia Wickstead dress she wore to the polo last month cost north of $1,000, paired with new $300 Camilla Elphick slingbacks. The kicker, her much criticized Caribbean tour wardrobe alone cost more than $50,000. Damn, Kate loves her some retail therapy. So relatable. Kate may love her fresh outfits and her custom coat dresses, but many other British people are still trying to figure out how they're gonna get through the next month. Unlike the mistakes Harry and Meghan have been making, which cost them a lot of royal fortune that they could have likely inherited if they kept their royal duties and all that, Kate and William are using the royal fortune and the fortune of other countries they visit for their over-the-top trips. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge's overnight visit to Yukon last September brought some excitement and attention to the territory, but for a price. $429,286. Wow, y'all really spent $400K in Yukon? That was Yukon's share of the bill, mainly covering entertainment, transportation, and catering costs for William and Kate's 2-day visit to Whitehorse and Carcross. Other expenses from the actual visit, such as security and the Royals' Whitehorse hotel room, were covered by Ottawa. Other big expenses included crowd control and traffic fencing for public events in Carcross and Whitehorse, which totaled up to $70,949, equipment and network support for a media center, which was $55,000, and a helicopter charter between Whitehorse and Carcross, which was $21,000. The government also spent $646 on umbrellas, plus $192 to ship those umbrellas, $1,700 on flags, and $791 on helium balloons at the Whitehorse Street Festival. On to number 2, the Prince and Princess of Wales flew home to the UK late Friday after a 3-day trip to America. After spending Friday night alongside celebrities like David Beckham at the 2nd annual Earthshot Prize Awards in Boston Saturday night after touching down, William and Catherine did just about the most relatable thing 2 parents could do: reunited with their 3 kids after 3 days away and attended a Christmas fundraiser at the kids' school. Good job, guys. According to Hello, immediately after the awards ceremony wrapped up on Friday night, the Waleses headed to the airport, landing in London Saturday morning, getting home as quickly as possible to their kids back in Windsor. Just hours later, according to the Sunday Times, the Waleses made a family jaunt to a Christmas fundraiser fair hosted by Lambrook, their kids' school. Number 1 on our list, people believe Prince William and Kate Middleton should pay back the public money spent on traveling during their out-of-touch Caribbean tour. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge spent 9 days touring Jamaica, Belize, and the Bahamas in March, but were hit by protests and a backlash over some of their photo ops. Buckingham Palace on June 29 revealed around $274,000 was spent on flights for the royals and their team, including a 2-week wreck by AIDS. You guys are really spending thousands like it's no big deal. The money came from the sovereign grant, their public funding given by the UK government each year based on profits from the Crown estate. The public should demand a refund of the £226 spent on the Duke and Duchess's Caribbean trip because they failed in their mission. All this succeeded in doing was causing more angst against the royal family. They were totally out of touch, they were ill-prepared, and they did not bridge the gap. The people have spoken, and it looks like you guys may be in some serious debt. The couple's tour was beset by problems before they even touched down, with a stop in Belize cancelled due to protests. There were then further protests in Kingston, and their presence appeared to ignite debates in all three countries about whether to remove the Queen as head of state. The visit was organized to celebrate Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years of her reign, making the opposition they encountered all the more problematic in the context of the tour's stated objective. Graham Smith, chief executive of anti-monarchy campaign group Republic, told Newsweek it's a shocking waste of money. They didn't know it was going to be such a disaster, but the fact that it was only makes it worse. Ultimately, this is taxpayers' money being spent to promote the royals, and that's not what taxpayers' money should be spent on. That is not cool, guys. If the public starts taking action against paying for all these expensive trips for the royals, how do you think this family will manage to continue funding their lifestyle? Or will they all just slowly go broke? Comment what you think, because it looks like these two are in a really sticky situation. Starting off with number 10, I mean, this didn't come as a surprise to anyone, but obviously, if it wasn't for Meg, it's very unlikely that Prince Harry would have thought to step down from the throne. But then again, he did seem pretty unhappy with the royal life. And although his whole life he's never needed to do anything crazy to earn his money, I know it must feel like a whole new life, having to make money instead of it being handed to you on a silver platter. So, I feel for you, Harry. I really do. Life really must be so difficult for you. Their infamously controversial decision to voluntarily leave left them cut off from the royal earnings they were making from doing royal things. After the move out, the couple was gaining attention in ways that made them seem like horrible people. After clarifying that the two were going to step back from their duties to focus on their mental health and working towards a life from their family without the royal toxicity, a lot of people had some strong opinions on their decision. Number 9 on our list, the projects the couple took after their sudden step back from the throne included the 3-year podcasting deal with Spotify, worth as much as $15 to $18 million. It's unknown whether the streaming music service has begun making money. The first podcast, a holiday special from their Archwell Audio, came out in December 2020 and was not part of the deal, making another $3.5 million a year. Prince Harry and Oprah Winfrey announced that they were going to executive produce a mental health series for Apple TV. The series was caught up in production delays, but is an extension of the Duke's own work that he candidly shared. Adding to the activities of their production company, both Harry and Meghan have earned money from book writing. Meghan published a book titled The Bench in 2021, and Harry has written a memoir, Spare, which should be releasing this year. For this book, Harry was reportedly paid close to $20 million. Harry also earns money from the mental health firm BetterUp, of which he serves as a board executive. Their biggest potential moneymaker might be the 5-year $100 million contract with Netflix signed in September 2020. They plan to produce documentaries, among other things, but we still don't know if Prince Harry and Meghan received an advance on the deal. If they did, it'll likely contribute to their net worth. Financial independence doesn't seem too difficult for them to achieve. What do you guys think? Was it a bad move to quit the royal life? On to number 8, the late Princess Diana is acknowledged by Harry for making their move possible. After being cut off from financial support from the palace, the relocated royals relied on the estimated $10 million inheritance Harry received from his late mother's estate. Although he was not a beneficiary of any of the $100 million fortune left by his great-grandmother, the Queen Mother. That's a fumble. $100 million in the bank account might not be looking too bad right now, is it, Meghan Harry? With Meghan Markle's $2 million earnings from her work in films and television shows, most notably the long-running legal drama Suits, the couple doesn't seem too far off from their own goal of comfortable financial independence. But is it all a facade? Are they really well off for life? Number 7 on the list, they bought a $14 million estate in Montecito, the seaside Santa Barbara, California, home to A-list Hollywood celebrities. I always wondered if the relocation was both of their decision, or did Meghan just really want to move back to the US? The Duke and Duchess also repaid the sovereign grant for the $3 million spent to remodel Frogmore Cottage. So if I did the math right, that means Prince Harry and Meghan are left with $5 million, at least for now. Their estimated net worth, including the equity from their home, is roughly $10 million. The Queen has a net worth of $500 million, while the combined value of the British monarch's holdings were worth an estimated $25 billion. Did Harry fumble a bag? They needed to focus on their mental health, so it's fair, but I'd be lying if I said that isn't an insanely huge amount of money to have access to. If put in the same position, I wonder how many other people would do the same. Would you leave the royal household for your mental health if you were born or married into it? The prince and his wife want to dedicate their life to helping others and improving the world. Prince Harry stated that his life is always going to be about public service, and Meghan signed up to that. But they also have to pay the bills, and thanks to their global celebrity status, Hollywood is only happy to capitalize, helping to cushion the financial blow. On to number 6, let's talk about the Oprah interview. After the CBS special interview was aired, some supporters and haters stirred some drama about the kinds of conversations that were had. Many were even calling Meghan out for lying about what was happening to her during her time as a working royal. Whether or not she was telling the whole truth, at the end of the day, she did what she had to do to find peace, which is good for her and their family. The allegations about her lying and victimizing herself became another reason to hate on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Meghan and Prince Harry discussed their time as working royals and their experiences since stepping down. In the interview, Meghan mentioned how there were concerns and conversations about how dark Archie's skin might be when he's born within the royal family. Considering the multiple accusations of racism that have come out throughout the years about this family, this really isn't too surprising to hear, but it is sad to know some members of the family have a mindset where it's important to know the skin color before the baby is even born. The former actress also spoke about being silenced by the royal family, explaining she was directed to give a no comment on questions directed her way once the couple's relationship was public. Counting down to number 5, family drama continues with Meghan's side of the family too. Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, went behind Meg's back to do media interviews after the wedding and criticized his daughter and other members of the royal family, which Meg later admitted was very embarrassing for the family. Thomas might have taken it too far, leaving his relationship with his daughter in pretty bad shape. According to Meghan, the Queen and Prince Charles advised her to write her father a letter, but somehow the letter was found and leaked to the public. #suspicious. The Mail on Sunday printed part of the letter, editing out the lines about the media's behavior. What a coincidence. Whether you hate or love the couple, you gotta admit that it's a snake move to publish intimate conversations and simply a gross invasion of privacy. But of course, the family and media drama doesn't end there. They asked for permission from King Charles to move to Canada. The plan was to continue working within the Commonwealth and doing work in the name of the Queen while moving away from the media and photographers. Harry wrote emails to King Charles putting their plans into writing at Charles's request. He said he included a detail that the couple would be willing to relinquish their Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles if their moving plans didn't materialize. Harry said it was 5 days later that their plans were on the front page of the newspaper. Did the royal institution leak the couple's plans to move to Canada? It seems like that's what Harry was indirectly saying. At that point, they decided to step back from their duties and pursue financial independence. Living in a family with snakes, I would want to get out of there ASAP too. Good for you, Harry and Meg. Number 4, Harry really broke up with the royal family through email. Not only did Meghan think it was best for them to move out of the royal palace completely, the process soured their relationships with other royal members, including the staff, with the reports of a few longtime members quitting because of Meghan's behavior. Apparently there were several reasons for the staff to call it quits, like Meghan shamelessly sending multiple emails throughout the night or demanding instant gratification while freaking out about what to wear and home renovations. I can't even lie, that sounds exhausting. No one wants to answer emails at 1 a.m. Come on, Meghan. And Meg, if you're out here victimizing yourself but at the same time bullying other members of the royal staff, what are we supposed to believe? On the other hand, the bullying got so bad for Meghan that Harry himself took a stand to defend his wifey and make a statement about leaving her alone because some media sources were taking it too far. And even if he is right to defend Meghan, if she was really treating other people without consideration, it makes the whole thing seem over-exaggerated, which they have been accused of doing in past interviews. On to number 3, it is a known fact that Meghan is pretty determined to do her way. I mean, she literally made so many controversial decisions in the past couple years alone to prove she can do whatever she thinks is best. During a conversation with the Queen's personal assistant, it was insinuated that Meghan should wear a hat since the Queen would be wearing one, but Meghan preferred to go without one. She really said, "I'm gonna do me regardless." It seems like Meghan and Harry want to cherry pick events they'll attend, the charities that they support, and the endeavors they want the the public to be a part of without having to experience the downsides of a public life. Number 2, is the spilling of the tea ever going to stop? The only way to shut out the media entirely is to completely remove themselves from public life, which would include their charitable works and likely any attempts to become even wealthier than they already are now. Only then will the press get bored and move on. But with the way they have been doing things, that truly seems unlikely. Whether they want to admit it or not, it really seems like they're enjoying all the drama and news about them. In a way, the constant conversation surrounding them is keeping people interested and making them money, which is never a bad thing. Harry didn't ask for this life per se, but Meghan must know better. The life of a former actress in Hollywood is equal parts craft and brand. You hope you're making art, but you also have to market yourself so that people watch it. Before she left to become a duchess, Meghan was capitalizing on her own Suits fame with a minor influencing career of her own, which included a blog called The Tig. Not at all coincidentally, the designers behind The Tig also created the new Sussex Royal website. For years, royal followers have been fascinated with Prince Harry's net worth, which obviously grew even more after their decision to take a step back from the British royal family. The fascination around Meghan and Harry's post-royals life sparked again in March 2021 when the two were interviewed by Oprah Winfrey for the CBS primetime special. Though there was speculation at the time that Meghan and Harry were paid for the interview, it was later confirmed that the couple would not be collecting a paycheck and said that no donations are being made to their charity. So they aired out their royal drama for free $99? Interesting. With that said, there are still a lot of question marks around Prince Harry's net worth. How much were Prince Harry's annual allowances? 95% of Harry's income before he left the royal family came from his father, King Charles III, who at the time controlled the Duchy of Cornwall, a portfolio of property and financial investments, securing $29 million back in 2019. Harry's annual allowance from Duchy, which he shared with Meghan, was around $7 million. This paid for Harry and Meghan's public duties as working members of the royal family, such as wardrobe and travel, as well as private costs. The other 5% of Harry's income came from the Sovereign Grant, which is a taxpayer-funded and paid from the government to the royal family to cover expenses for official duties, as well as the royal palace. According to the BBC, the grant, which is also funded from Crown estate profits and commercial properties owned by the Crown, is worth $114 million. Starting off with number 10, the royal treatment is a real thing proven by King Charles III, who does not have to pay a dime in inheritance taxes. This is a win for Charles since he gained a rather large inheritance after the unfortunate passing of his mother, Queen Liz. In comparison, regular British folk have to pay around 40% in taxes on an inheritance on anything upwards of $375,000. The decision that the British monarch would not have to pay an inheritance tax came about in 1993 when former Prime Minister John Major agreed to a tax arrangement with the royal family. Major said, in the unique circumstances of a hereditary monarchy, special arrangements are needed for inheritance tax. I guess instead of eating the rich, we're treating the rich. Forbes estimated he inherited his mother's portfolio worth $500 million, to which not a dime goes anywhere except the king, including the $42 billion fortune belonging to the crown. This tax deal also exempts them from paying income tax, a deal to which Queen Elizabeth and now King Charles both agreed to do so anyway. So if you ever wanted to know how to stay rich, the easiest way to do so is by being a royal to avoid paying taxes. Number 9 on our countdown, I'm still trying to figure out how I can insert myself into the royal family to avoid taxes, but let's talk about their multiple iconic properties. I understand that they're royal, but sometimes it just feels like they're showing off. Along with having Buckingham Palace under the belt, the royals have made a point to invest in numerous properties across the country and even internationally. But forget about all that for a second. I have a theory that all these properties actually have secret passageways and lead to other worlds. Or what if they're all connected? Yeah, they have a pretty big family and investing in property is a great source of income, but when it comes to these mysterious royals, there has to be more than what is shown on surface level, right? With a total of 30 regal estates, the family owns a 50,000-acre estate in Norfolk, the infamous Kensington Palace, a couple cottages, castles, forts, and more. By the time I finish this list, I think the next in line of succession will be appointed, so all I'm gonna say is that the double-digit number of properties are nothing less than intriguing. Fun fact, if you ever wanted to stay at a new property every month, it would take 2.5 years to finish the tour. Seriously, I need to find out how to become a royal expeditiously. At some point, we're gonna have to talk about the difference in the lifestyle of the royal family compared to literally everyone else. Unlike government officials, the family does not have to disclose non-public information and can keep whatever they like a secret. Anything can be kept a secret, so they're literally above the law. If this family is actually a bunch of aliens who just decided they'll be living completely different lives than everyone, for one, we'd never know unless they wanted to share that information with us, and two, no one can really go interrogating or investigating this family. That's kind of flabbergasting if you ask me. The late queen, to a degree, had an open door policy in which she was okay with sharing information, but we have seen times where major court cases go away from the public eye and fast. And just in case you're wondering, staff needs to sign NDAs that make sure that they don't expose information against the royal family's will. Aside from the fact that Liz was a queen for nearly 70 years, being one of the wealthiest women in the world comes with a price. People who are out here trying to get rid of you. Did you know that every time the queen visits the state opening of parliament, the royal household must take a hostage? As much as it sounds like a movie, that is in fact true. The rule dates back to the time when parliament and the royals were not besties. To assure the queen would return safely, the royal household thought it was best to take a member of parliament with them to the ceremony in case anything bad were to happen to the late queen. And this still happens to this day, despite the fact that the relationship between the royals and parliament isn't terrible anymore. But it's just a precaution. The chosen MP is kept perfectly safe and taken care of throughout the ceremony. So it's definitely risky, but why not chill out with the royals for a bit, right? I mean, it's not like they'd have a choice. On to number 6, speaking of not having a choice when it comes to the head of the monarch, the royal family's protection officers are literally paid to put the royals before themselves. As wild as it is to think about, protection officers will put their own lives at risk to save the monarchy. And yeah, it might be good money, but at the risk of your own life is kind of insane to think about. I don't know how much money I would be willing to accept if it were to protect someone else's life. Would you do it? It's pretty common with most protection services when it comes to important people, and we've seen it in action movies during assassination attempts where the security makes the heroic dive. Having that much wealth really comes with a price tag. You can either live rich or lose your life saving the rich person. When it comes to living large, the royal family is never shy about their well-funded trips. Their huge travel budget has more to do than just them having a lot of money. If you're regal, you gotta live it up. It's the only way. With one trip back in 2017 costing them $5.8 million, it puts into perspective how much thought they must be putting when traveling. Their tradition is more of a protocol based around security fears. Family members of the same line are not allowed to travel in the same plane together, so that in case of an accident, wiping the royal lineage is prevented. That tradition has only once been broken by Prince William when he flew to Canada in the same plane as Prince George, who will succeed him one day in the future. He did, however, ask for the Queen's permission beforehand. It still was a risky move. A few other protocols they follow when traveling include color-coded luggage, sticking with an entourage, and packing a black outfit just in case they need to attend an emergency funeral. They also take extremely short trips. When you're as regal as the royals and are known for your wealth, it is a precaution not to trust anyone, not even yourself. Out of fear of being poisoned, the royals have to avoid certain foods such as shellfish when they eat out so they don't run the risk of getting food poisoning. Similarly, they skip rare red meat, so they may be eating good, but they're missing out on the really good stuff. I cannot imagine giving up shrimp or oysters. They're just too good to risk out of fear of food poisoning. Another way the royals prevent any sort of food-related mishap, they do the absolute most to ensure the food they're eating is safe. When catering for the royals' engagements in Wales, a satellite kitchen was set up in the grounds of Cardiff Castle. Then food would be transferred into the banquet on foot. If catering was done for a heads of state banquet, the catering staff would have to meet at a police station and get a motorcycle ride into Cardiff Castle. For higher caliber banquets, they were required to put all food, containers, knives, and kitchen equipment through an X-ray machine, followed by a ride to the castle on a motorcycle. Talk about having a large budget. X-ray machines for food is crazy to think about, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Sometimes when you're insanely rich, you just gotta have duplicates of all your outfits. Moving on to number 3, the royals think of everything when it comes to how they're presenting themselves when stepping out the castle. Just in case of spills or stains, the royals make sure they have an easy to change duplicate of their outfit. I get it, with the amount of pics that are taken of the family, I would hate finding out I had pasta sauce on my shirt all day through pictures. The types of things this family thinks about make us laugh, but they're really serious about certain things that we would literally never think about. The royal protocols are no joke to these regal people. But again, it all comes down to the massive wealth they have. They have the time and energy to think about and afford certain things that wouldn't make sense to us regular people. Counting down to number 2, the bloodline runs deep, and there are definitely a lot of things members of the family aren't familiar with. As they say, a lot of things can be taken to the grave, except when there are people curious enough to go discover some stuff out for themselves. As we all know, the royals have been exposed countless times throughout the history of the monarchy. As rich as they are, one can only imagine the possible ways their wealth has been accumulated, and tax fraud is in fact on the list. The late Queen Liz was once exposed for hiding her embarrassing wealth from the public. Imagine being so rich you yourself are embarrassed by it? That doesn't even make sense to my regular non-royal brain. Queen Liz's private lawyer was said to literally change laws so that accurate information about her wealth would not be disclosed to the public. And although the true scale of how much the Queen was holding onto was never publicly announced, we can only assume it's no less than hundreds of millions of pounds. Her Royal Highness invested at least $13 million into offshore tax-sheltered funds in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda. This led party leaders and anti-monarchists towards an investigation of the Queen's private funds, which led them to discover that the Queen was avoiding $15 million in taxes on her $680 million duchy. If that isn't some royalty, I don't know what is. And last on the list of top 10 lies the royal family has told about their wealth, the family will do anything to keep the wealth within the family, and I mean anything. Marrying inside the family is a common theme when it comes to how these royal couples came to be. As sick as it is to us, the monarchy keeps their fortune as close to the family as possible by marrying their own relatives. In no way can I defend the royals here because that is definitely sick behavior, but I'm sure it's easier to introduce your partner to your family, and you don't even have to worry about whether or not the family would like them. Everyone talks about their family tree, but I'd say it's more of a wreath if you start counting the number of times their relationships wrap around. When looking back at the reign of Queen Victoria, her 63 years and 216 days of rule became known as the Victorian era, a period even non-history buffs have heard of. What some may not know about Miss Vicky is that she married her cousin. The couple first met on Victoria's 17th birthday in April 1836 when she was heir to the British throne. Their uncle King Leopold I introduced them. In their memoirs, Albert and Victoria record that they almost instantly fell in love. I have no words. Together, the cousins went on to have 9 children together, 4 boys and 5 girls. So if their kids wanted to ask how they met, would they be all like, yeah, I fell in love with my cousin during a family function? That is wild. The cousin-loving gene was passed further down the family tree, or wreath, whatever we want to call it. The romanticization of Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth's relationship wasn't enough to overshadow their relations like it was with Victoria and Albert. Philip was related to Queen Victoria as a great-great-grandson through his maternal side, and while Liz was related to Queen Victoria from her father's side. I'm sure there have been many other occasions of royal DNA sharing, but spouse sharing is another interesting aspect of royal life. In 1970, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's only daughter, Princess Anne, once dated Andrew Park Bowles. Just a few years later, Andrew went on to marry Camilla, who married Charles in 2005 after having a long affair with him during his marriage to Princess Diana. If you couldn't catch all that, I'll make it easier for you. So imagine your sibling marrying someone who shares the same ex as you. Weird. A lot of passing around going on behind the royal palace doors. If that wasn't weird enough, sibling hopping has happened in the royal family too. Are we shocked? As a prince, Charles and Princess Diana were married for 15 years, which is impressive considering their rocky relationship and many affairs. However, the two were actually introduced by Diana's sister, Sarah, whom Prince Charles dated prior to his relationship with Diana. While not illegal or technically wrong, this information detail about the king is bizarre. Rich people, man, they're weird. Starting off with number 10, do the royals cost the government money or do they make it money? The royals draw tourist dollars as well as publicity for Britain. In 2017, the monarchy boosted tourism in the UK by more than $640 million. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Even though the sovereign grant is growing, which means more money for the royals, the Crown Estate still provides a lot of money to the government. anti-monarchy groups don't really think the royal family brings in money. What do you guys think? Are they just being haters, or do you agree? They think the monarchy costs the country about $400 million a year. It was estimated that the government's cost to protect the family was over $100 million annually. $100 million to protect a family? I mean, that money could have gone towards better causes like helping with the problem of homelessness or providing money to low-income families, but instead they really said, let's put millions of dollars towards protecting one of the richest families in the world. It might be possible that the royal family would draw an equal amount from tourists while still taking in less money themselves. The historic buildings and memorabilia could likely draw in tourists even if there was no current royal family. So we may never know how much of this additional tourism revenue is actually directly tied to the royal family's current position. After becoming king, Charles hopes to slim down the monarchy with fewer senior royals involved in public engagements. He also spoke about opening more royal properties to the public, a move that could technically bring in more revenue. And even though this might be a smart business move, I still think these anti-monarchy groups might be onto something. I just don't think the royal life needs to be this heavily funded by the taxpayers, but that likely isn't gonna change. Number 9 on our list, direct funding for the monarchy through the sovereign grant. Some really important things that the sovereign grant helped with included $92 million renovations to Buckingham Palace. Spending close to $100 million on renovations alone can't possibly be for aesthetic reasons or for tourists visiting the palace. Being royal means their palace and lifestyle has to be as royal as their title. But at that cost? I mean, I can't say that's the most relatable thing, no matter how much they want to be relatable to the general public. I literally can't remember the last time I spent millions of dollars on renovations. But other than that, yeah, this family is totally relatable. Royalists say that these costs represent only £1 a year to every person in the UK. That makes it much better. All British people chipped in for the multi-million-dollar renovations whether they liked it or not. On to number 8, would you ever voluntarily pay taxes if you had the choice not to? If given the chance, I'm sure a lot of us would opt out of ever having to pay taxes, but the Queen used to voluntarily pay income and capital gains tax since 1992 on whatever wasn't used to finance her official work. I'm adding this to my list of reasons the royal family is in fact not relatable. King Charles has also voluntarily paid income tax on his income from another landed estate, the Duchy of Cornwall, since 1993. I think this whole trying to relate to the public is getting out of hand, because why would you voluntarily do something most people hate having to do? But then again, they can afford to pay taxes, unlike a lot of the taxpayers who are funding their lifestyle. How ironic. In 2016 to 2017, that estate brought in a revenue of $27 million, on which King Charles paid tax of around $5 million. In fact, most of King Charles's official duties are financed from the duchy's income. This income also covers however much the official duties of Camilla, William, and Kate would cost. The working royals in Charles's direct family get revenues from the sovereign grant too. So when Prince Harry and Meghan left, a lot of their royal income was put to a stop, which caused a bit of friction within the family, but mainly because they wouldn't be fulfilling their responsibilities. Which makes sense, but being cut cold turkey is very rough. The Queen's own funds are also used for her official duties, which means she doesn't have to pay tax on that part of her income. So she does pay taxes, just not all of them. Must be nice. Number 7 on our list, knowing that they are on the taxpayer's dime, the royal family is careful with their public behavior when it comes to extravagant spending. While there are often extreme expenses associated with major events such as weddings, the royal family has been known to fly on budget airlines and fund some of their own travel. But that isn't always true. A few trips these royals have taken in the past few years came with an outrageously priced bill. Charles and Camilla have somehow managed to spend $530,000 on a tour they took through the Caribbean. Damn, what could you guys possibly be spending $500,000 on? Other trips that were pretty pricey were trips taken by Will and Kate, estimating around $130,000. I need to somehow find a way to go on these trips. I know they have a blast. How can you not if you're spending hundreds of thousands? Just in case you haven't noticed, they're very careful of the public persona. They feel like they have this sense of responsibility to the public that funds their lifestyle. So if they were acting reckless, they probably wouldn't have as much support. which makes sense. It's funny when the paparazzi tries to catch them in awkward moments. Is that another thing I'm adding to my list of reasons this family just isn't as relatable as they try to be? Yes. Thinking about being absolutely perfect and delightful all the time just feels so exhausting. Do they still have to act perfect if they lose their luggage at an airport? I know a lot of us would be fuming. If this family woke up one day and decided to become savage, that would make major headlines, and honestly, I would want to tune in. The once royally perfect family goes savage. That's a whole YouTube video right there. I think I'm onto something. Our sixth reason, their financial worries are just so different from the average person. And to think their lifestyle is funded by the regulars is just interesting to think about. We already know they keep up this facade to make it seem like they aren't spending their money recklessly, but let's be real, they're royals. They're accustomed to a lavish life, so who would even stop them if they did want to spend a few extra bucks? Or in their case, a few extra millions if they wanted to. This is me trying to justify their actions. The Cambridges may have downplayed how much they even used the family helicopter. Even if they say it wasn't used very often at all, it is implied that it was being used a bit more than the Queen wanted. Another expense that caused tension for the family was Will and Kate's tour of the Caribbean earlier this year. The cost for chartered flights for that one trip cost $268,000. Can we take that in for a second? The flights alone almost cost them $300,000. What could they have possibly been doing? I actually need answers. The fifth reason is the many petitions made to abolish the monarchy. As much support as this family gets, there are people who really don't want to see this established monarchy continue. What side are you on, for or against the monarchy? And although republicanism isn't a strong force in Britain at the moment, that could change if it fails to attract the support of the younger British population. If the monarchy was abolished, the Queen's or King's consent would disappear. There would be no royal family to influence the country's legislation. It is believed that the people of Britain would actually have a more fair and even democracy. That sounds very intriguing, but I guess not enough for the majority of the population to agree with the removal of the royal family. Number 4, this family has been involved in scandals for generations. Being knee-deep in controversies is not a good look for the representation of Britain, but they somehow managed to pay the news outlets to run stories that promote them in a good way. I mean, they managed to be so perfect that people sweep their complete wrongdoings under a rug, which, might I add, has to be a huge rug. No one is obviously perfect, but the extent to which the royals have been exposed for their controversies is so out of pocket that it's actually shocking. And the fact that these news stories have not at all gotten as much attention as something as mediocre as Meghan and Harry leaving the palace is crazy. Political correspondent Nadine Batchelor-Hunt argued that the royals are becoming increasingly out of place in contemporary society due to the family's past and present scandals. She might be onto something because she's not completely wrong. The third reason on today's top 10, if the king moved out of Buckingham Palace, he wouldn't have to give up all his royal residences. Buckingham Palace has been used as the official working and living headquarters of Britain's monarch since 1837. With over 700 rooms, it would be used by the king to host state banquets and engagements with world leaders and government officials. It's also a prime location for many milestone events and could become a permanent tourist attraction if the king were to officially move out. The palace is property of the Crown Estate, which the late Queen Elizabeth was the owner of while she was the monarch. However, this would change if the new king was no longer head of state. Now, wouldn't that suck? Counting down to number 2, despite the money produced by the monarchy, the royal family is pretty expensive. Back in 2018 to 2019, they cost taxpayers $86 million. This was 41% more than the previous year. How does it make sense that there are thousands of people in debt but the funds towards the royals are increasing? Showing where their money goes. Many agree that the education systems would benefit from this wealth more than old people born into the crown. Not only does the system cost the British public money, but they're also unable to choose which ruler will come next, leaving taxpayers with no power over the system. That takes a huge chunk of their money. If you compare the wealth earned by the royals to the people of the country, it drastically changes the picture. The typical earnings of a full-time employee in England falls at £31,000, while the Queen banks around $42 million for doing whatever exactly it is that she does. Being born into the monarchy means you will never endure the same struggles as most people. They have no financial worries and aren't expected to work a 9-to-5 job. The majority of society works hard to achieve a somewhat comfortable life, while others are spoon-fed. Oh, to be rich. At the end of the day, royals are human too. They didn't ask to be born into wealth. Princess Diana and the Duchess of Sussex are living proof that the spotlight can be terrifying and toxic. Even though the royals may be lucky to have a luxurious lifestyle, this attention can be manipulated when needed. For example, the royal family can release unexpected news to remove negative attention from another member of the family. The British public has no say in who becomes the next monarch, which shows how much control we have in terms of the royal family. If a ruler is deemed unfit by the general public, they can't be voted out. Problematic royals have historically been difficult to remove from positions of power. Another factor to consider is that King Charles was crowned at 73. In the UK, the average age of retirement is 64, meaning you receive a pension not having to work anymore. Should he really receive the title when he's almost a decade over the age of retirement? Charles, I hate to break it to you, but you're getting kind of old. Today we are talking about 10 of the royal family members who lost millions. Starting off with number 10, it didn't come as a surprise to find out that the once beloved Prince Harry's sudden exit from royal life cost him millions. This life-altering decision that was made by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex left many shocked and them with a substantially smaller amount of money in the bank account. Meghan really got him to drop it all for her. That's some real power. After being cut off financially in 2020, he's admitted to relying on his late mother, Princess Diana's inheritance, even revealing that if it wasn't for the inheritance, they would have not been able to afford their royal exit. Shout out Princess Di. Along with losing millions of money, it might be safe to say that Prince Harry lost much more because of this decision that many supporters of the royals, including the family, did not agree with. He may have inherited additional funds from his great-grandmother who passed away in 2002. The BBC reported at the time that Prince William and Harry were left north of $16 million to divide. Harry would receive a larger portion as he would not gain the financial benefits of being king one day. Okay, so I'm seeing Harry is still getting that bag without the royal responsibilities. Maybe he is onto something. In number 9, we can't speak of Harry without mentioning his wife and former actress Meghan Markle. After their short period of time as working royals, Meghan was not feeling it at all and thought it would be healthier for the couple to opt out of their royal duties and start a life in LA. They really dropped the bag, now they have to support themselves. Meg, I thought you cared about your status. Do they still think it was a good idea? We may never know for sure, but considering all the brand deals they've signed with to stay afloat, to them, this may be the path of least resistance. The couple has been criticized for recently entering into multi-million-dollar deals with the streaming giants Spotify and Netflix. I mean, hey, they gotta make money some way, even if that meant exposing the royal drama to get that bag. During the bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey, the couple was asked about whether or not they are just money-grabbing royals, to which Harry assured was never the intention. Another lie? Or is this a sincere statement? Let me know what you think in the comments below, because their words are really not matching with their actions. Markle suggested that their charity Archwell was a remedy to the misinformation about them, explaining that the work would prioritize storytelling through a truthful lens. Okay, let's see if Miss Meghan is being honest now. Down to number 8, before getting cut off financially, King Charles was helping Harry and Meghan to make their transition easier. Once that was done in the spring of 2020, only months after the couple had announced their decision to step down, Harry and Meghan made the claim that they were cut off financially. Wow, now that is cold. Being upset that you are no longer reaping the benefits of a royal as someone who voluntarily did not want to be one anymore feels very much like a first world problem. Am I right? Do they really expect to continue earning a royal allowance without taking up the duties? Harry and Meg, I think you should feel lucky you have enough without the royals to spoon feed you millions of dollars, but that's just me. On top of that, the couple has managed to lose millions of supporters because of their controversial Netflix miniseries, which they really believed needed to be a 6-part story. I too wonder what they thought their love story was important enough for us to consider sitting through 6 separate episodes of it. But anyway, Romeo and Juliet would never. In number 7, the once known as a prince, Andrew. After some major controversies, Andrew was stripped of royal titles, military associations, and royal patronages. Oh, and not to mention the millions that he will no longer be continuing with his royal duties. Big shocker. All Prince Andrew's roles have been returned to the Queen with immediate effect and will be redistributed to other members of the royal family. The door is being closed on return to public life. Sucks to suck, Andrew. Although he does seem to be keeping his constitutional role as Chancellor of State, one of 4 royals who can undertake the Queen's official duties should she be unwell. Although he does seem to be keeping his constitutional role as Chancellor of State. The Duke had a 22-year career in the Royal Navy and served as a helicopter pilot during the Falkland Wars. The latest palace announcement means he has lost military titles, including Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. Seems like a lot of these L's cost him more than just millions. Moving on to number 6, after the ill-prepared Caribbean tour Will and Kate took, many were quick to call them out for the outrageous amount of money that was spent for this trip, making it their most expensive trip of the year. Look at these ballers. Just a reminder, a lot of these trips these royals take are funded by the taxpayers, so this news definitely hit a nerve when it was revealed how much was spent. Honestly, I'd be annoyed too if my money was going towards a trip I wasn't even invited to. The figure includes the cost of William and Kate's journey on the RAF Voyager, an Airbus 330 used by the royals and government VIP, and a separate staff planning trip that took place before the tour began. Overall, the royals received £86 million from the Sovereign Grant. Of that, $4.5 million went to travel, including the Caribbean tour and the November trip King Charles made to Barbados when the country became a republic, which cost £138,000. The cost also included 179 helicopter flights by members of the royal family and 24 additional charter flights. They really know how to spend money when it's not theirs. And number 5, King Charles III is now entitled to riches part of the Crown Estate, the largest of the investment entities linked to the UK monarchy, as well as from a private estate, the Duchy of Lancaster. Eldest son William has inherited the Duchy of Cornwall after succeeding his father as Prince of Wales and next in line to the throne. The Crown Estate and Royal Duchies oversee total assets of about $21 billion, with their values rising about 70% on average over the past decade, which reflects rising land and property prices. Wow, now we're getting into the billions. Seems like he could share it with the rest of us. Come on, King Charles. Profits from the Duchy of Lancaster, which owns 45,000 acres of land across England and Wales, provide income for the UK's sovereign and have helped to fund the activities of other British royals. One of the largest sources of the Windsor's wealth, as well as one of the most difficult to assess, is the family's property holdings. The family owns a large portfolio of real estate, including well-known properties such as the 830,000 square foot Buckingham Palace, Sandringham Country Estate, Balmoral Castle, the Duchy of Cornwall, and Windsor Castle. And the list goes on and on. Must be nice. On to number 4. The thing this family spends money on, a lot of us can only dream of being able to drop millions of dollars to travel, renovate, and do other royal British things. The release of an annual report, the Sovereign Grant, details spending for the year. This also revealed the renovations to Meghan and Prince Harry's new home, Frogmore Cottage, which cost over $3 million. You guys like to spend a lot of money too, huh? When they decided on stepping down, they offered to pay back the expenses from the renovations. Wow, how nice of you guys. Members of the family also have massive amounts of private wealth, the spending of which they do not have to report. But that doesn't stop us from being curious about the other ways they spend their lavish wealth. According to the report, Queen Elizabeth and the royal family received $104 million from British taxpayers. They spent $42 million on renovations to royal palaces and properties. Along with the upgrades to the Sussex's home, a number of other home design projects took up a big chunk of the budget, including Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, and Windsor Castle. No wonder they're going broke. Other things the royals spend their wealth on is their large staff and crew who work for the royals. And just in case you didn't know, a lot of people work for the palace. Payroll costs totaled around $29.4 million, and that includes multiple levels of staff, including private secretaries for senior royals and public relations teams. As much as the royals try their hardest to pretend like they're relatable and just like us, they really aren't. Spending this much money on the people who work for you is literally the complete opposite of relatable. On to number 3, traveling like royalty comes with a king-sized price tag. The royal family serves as ambassadors for the UK across the country, Commonwealth, and the world, which is why they're out and about a lot. The 2022 annual report from the Sovereign Grant and Sovereign Grant Reserve revealed that the royal family spent more than $5 million on travel in the past year. Some of those trips were vacations, other official government trips, and a good few seem to be a bit of both. But damn, spend a lot of money. According to the Sovereign Grant, members of the family undertook more than 3,200 engagements during the year, with the Queen doing 140 and the total travel costs were around $5.8 million. Can you imagine spending that much on traveling? Millions of dollars to travel is a crazy thing to think about for us regular folk, but for the royals, it's just another day. Obviously, the overseas tours cost significantly more than day trips in Britain. For example, Prince Charles and Duchess Camilla's trip to the Caribbean and Cuba cost around $530,000. The Fiji and Tonga portion of the Sussex's Down Under tour cost over $100K, and Prince William's trip to visit Jordan, Israel, and Palestine was around $90,000. The most expensive trip so far was taken by King Charles and Camilla in 2017 to Italy, Romania, and Austria. During the 9-day tour, the couple took several very expensive charter flights between Bucharest, Pisa, Naples, Rome, and Vienna, and all that came to a cost of $203,000. Charles and Camilla are the biggest spenders. The couple spent more than any other royal family member on travel in 2018. It was then that they racked up a bill of about $530,000 for their massive tour through the Caribbean. Damn, y'all gotta chill out a little. However, it seems as though they really got their money's worth on that one, as the couple took part in more than 50 engagements on 10 different islands during their stay. It was also the first royal visit to Cuba. Why does it cost this much to travel? Well, the royals have to take into consideration the amount of staff that is coming with them, who have their own separate expenses, the tremendous expense of operating around-the-clock RCMP security detail, and you can't forget the officers driving armored Escalades following the royal family everywhere to ensure some crazy lunatic doesn't try to make a name for himself by taking them out. Number 2 on our top 10, the family increasing their carbon footprint. Since the royals are partially funded by the taxpayer, the Prince of Wales is obligated to publish annual reports covering business costs, carbon emissions, home energy consumption, and travel schedules. To work out the carbon footprints of the royals, let's dive into the impact it has on their travels. With an increase of 93% in carbon emissions is due to more overseas tours. On the flip side, there was a 24% reduction in energy use for heating and lighting, and a 2% reduction in waste generation, which should make environmentalist King Charles happy. Out of everyone in the immediate royal family, King Charles has the biggest carbon footprint. The king really is out here living large. On the flip side, the smallest carbon footprint was made by Queen Liz. When the Queen was strictly forbidden from traveling on public transit, she would regularly use her own private train. Yeah, you heard that right. The family has its own private train. The regal interior of the Royal British train is breathtaking enough, but what makes this more impressive is that it's a diesel-electric hybrid. A major and controversial source of wealth for the royal family is the crown jewels. These include a multitude of rare and expensive jewels and crowns. Among the most famous of the jewels is the Koh-i-Noor diamond, a 105-carat diamond which you can consider as a gift to Queen Victoria or stolen by the British in the mid-19th century. We can get into that another day. Anyway, determining the value of a jewel like the Koh-i-Noor is also difficult. By comparison, in 2015, a flawless 100-carat diamond sold at auction for $22 million. However, it is likely that the Koh-i-Noor would sell for a substantial amount more. This is because of the value of the diamond based on its association with the royals and the value that other governments have placed on it. The Indian government is one such entity that has sought the return of the diamond over the years. The royal collection includes over 1 million art objects held in trust by the monarch. The king or queen do not own these artworks. Among the pieces in the collection are countless items of decorative art. Due to the size and enormous historical value of the collection, it's difficult to place a monetary value on it. As a newly appointed king, there's no surprise Charles is hiding something from us, right? Today we're talking about 10 secrets King Charles is trying to keep from us about his wealth. Starting off with number 10, now that King Charles is living a king-size life, how can we pretend there aren't any regal secrets he's keeping from us? After inheriting the properties from his mother, Queen Liz, Charles has been getting a lot more attention, and obviously we're gonna dig into the English wealth and their secrets. For a regular British citizen, an inheritance over $380,000 is taxed 40%. But King Charles doesn't have to pay anything on properties, jewels, and investments that probably are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Whatever happened to eating the rich? The royal treatment is getting out of hand. Having all this money and privilege on top of not having to pay taxes? Every day this family makes me wonder why I wasn't born a royal. But anyway, according to the British government, the monarchy needs sufficient private resources and a degree of financial independence from the government. Am I the only one who feels like the British government is sucking up to the royals? Or is everyone in the UK in some trance? Because considering their extremely problematic history, how are they getting away with all of this? It has to be a trance, right? Maybe that's what they're hiding from us. They might not even be royal. Maybe they just set up a whole castle and trance the whole country just so they don't have to pay taxes. Honestly, I might be onto something. The same document explains that the British Crown is also not legally liable for income tax or capital gains tax. Personally, I think the British people should overthrow the throne at this point because taxes should not be reserved for regular citizens. But that's just me. Or what if they flipped and only taxed the extremely rich people? That is a society I would love to live in. On to number 9, the royal family is under few requirements to disclose details of its wealth, but all I'm gonna say is, if you want to find out, it's not too difficult to go all Sherlock Holmes on the family. The family's communications with the government are exempt from freedom of information requests. Their official papers are kept secret by Britain's National Archives for at least 50 years. The lack of transparency has led anti-monarchy groups, including the Republic, to call the monarchy an unaccountable public institution that has the power, secrecy, and influence to willfully abuse its position. What do you guys think about that? Do you think they're abusing their position? Because I kind of agree. Without a change, many details of the royal family's private wealth may never be known. Facts about the Duchy of Lancaster's offshore investments were leaked back in 2017, and those detailed roughly $13 million in offshore accounts. I wonder what else could be revealed if more documents were suddenly leaked. Seriously, we need some investigative work done on this family. Other reports have suggested questionable foreign dealings or arrangements. Earlier this year, King Charles was accused of offering to help secure a knighthood for a Saudi national in response to a donation for his charitable foundation. Representatives of Charles did deny this, but it sounds a little suspicious to me. Counting down to number 8, historically speaking, having a claim to the throne has been a big deal. Wars have been fought over who has the most right to rule, and even if it is less significant to everyday people, the royal family takes this very seriously. If they were not the legitimate heirs to the throne for some reason, then they'd be just regular folks who'd have to find a house to rent somewhere. If only. By and large, no one questions the legitimacy of the royal family, but there has been some potential for disruption thanks to DNA analysis of a body found in a parking lot. After King Richard III was struck down in battle in 1485, his body was laid to rest at Greyfriars Abbey. But a lot can happen in over 500 years, and the abbey, along with the king, were more or less forgotten. So much that his grave ended up being under an office building parking lot. Other bodies have been discovered over the years on the property, and it was known to have once been the site of the abbey. During a DNA analysis to confirm his identity, it turned out to be Richard. But listen to this plot twist. The Y chromosomes in the DNA analysis don't match others in the royal line. Gasp. Who is the imposter? So, quick biology lesson for you guys to help break this down. The maternal line was used to identify the remains of Richard, but if the Y chromosome passed down from the male side doesn't match, it means somewhere in the family line there may have been an affair. Someone at some time gave birth to a child not of the royal line, or pretended the child was legit. This is the real English tea of the day. Drop in the comments who you think the imposter child was, because theories could get interesting. Since we can't know when this affair may have occurred, there's no way to know when it affected the family line. So maybe the current royals are the real deal, or maybe they aren't. Down to 7, ever so often the ruling class get compared to vampires for their habit of living off the people over whom they rule. So there were likely a few critics of the royal family, and King Charles in particular, who would be delighted to discover that the king is literally related to Dracula. Spooky. If Hotel Transylvania makes a new movie, I know who they can incorporate into the plot. Or even better, have as a voice actor for a new character. Matter of fact, I should pitch this idea to Sony ASAP. In real life, Bram Stoker is believed to have based his famous vampire in part on Vlad Tepes, the 15th century Romanian prince. Vlad earned himself the nickname Impaler due to his penchant for sticking enemies on sharp poles. So the story goes. Fast forward to the present, and King Charles is a distant relative of the Romanian prince. He's Dracula's great-grandson 16 times removed. Prince Charles was apparently very stoked to learn this and has a soft spot for Transylvania, the region made famous by Dracula. So now I'm gonna have to go explore my family tree to see if I'm related to any historic or iconic people. On to number 6, speaking of crazy conspiracies, word on the street is Jack the Ripper, one of history's most notorious assassins, may have been a royal. His identity was never determined, and even to this day, over a century later, people are trying to piece it together. Back in the day, one potential suspect was Prince Albert Victor. What is going on with this family? First Dracula, now Jack the Ripper. This royal family has some explaining to do because it is just getting out of hand. They cannot keep getting away with it. Another theory was that the British royal family wanted specific women taken out because they knew the prince had an illegitimate son. That is some tea. Neither of these theories had any evidence to support it, and they appeared nearly a century after the fact. The result is that it's almost entirely unlikely, but still something the royal family is not likely to ever openly address and would rather keep on the down low. Let me know if you think this theory is valid. I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? Down to number 5, celebrities really do the weirdest things ever, and we just accept it because, well, they're celebrities. But traveling with your own bag of blood is just a different level of weird. Even though the reasoning is not the craziest, you have to admit adding a bag of blood to your travel checklist is just so bloody interesting. In case of emergencies, King Charles and Prince William travel with a sack of their own blood on hand. The royals travel with their physician and a bag of their own home brew in case of an emergency transfusion. But hey, I can't blame them. For a good portion of her busier years, the Queen was making about one state visit per year. But Prince William was a bit more widely traveled. Blood only has a shelf life of about 42 days after it's been bagged up, so they were probably getting fresh stuff for each and every trip. That's a lot of needlework. I wonder what they would have done if someone had a serious fear of needles. Number 4 on our countdown, in 1837 the historic Buckingham Palace became the official residence of the British sovereigns in London. This 700-room palace also serves as the venue for many royal events and ceremonies. I would expect them to throw events at a literal palace, so this isn't too shocking, but I wonder how many secret doorways they have, and do any lead to Narnia, because that might just be the next thing I do when I ever go to London. Sneak my way into every corridor to find out where the secret passages would be. Who's coming with me? The palace has 19 staterooms, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, and 78 bathrooms. It also has a cinema, indoor swimming pool, post office, chapel, a doctor's surgery, and even a cash machine. Having a literal post office in your house is just a next level flex. Maintaining a palace of this size obviously requires a lot of time, money, and staff. With more than 800 workers employed, there's a job for everything in this house. Among the more unusual jobs, there are 2 full-time clockmakers. The palace has more than 350 clocks, so if you ever need to know the time, you will have a clock somewhere in the vicinity. What a relief. Number 3 on our list, can we talk about King Charles's privilege? Being a rich white man is one thing, but add royal into the mix and he really is set for life. Becoming king after the late Queen Liz's impressive 70-year reign is definitely a privilege, and King Charles is very careful about what about this lifestyle he chooses to show with us regular folk and what is kept behind closed doors. There's one place that His Majesty can likely be found, on his hands and knees in his personal Highgrove house gardens. The garden at Highgrove really does spring from my heart, and, strange as it may seem to some, creating it has been rather like a form of worship, the royal said in 1993. On to number 2, what's the point of all this wealth if you can't share it with your future generations? Nothing is more magical to a young child than a secret treehouse. Originally built for Princes William and Harry, Charles recently renovated the area for the newest generation of the little royal youngsters. The rustic playhouse is in a woodland area known as Stumpery, surrounded by toadstools and stone steps leading up to the playhouse entrance. This sounds like a fairy tale, and I'm going to need to schedule a playdate so I can go explore this cute treehouse. So who's coming with me? Last on the list, there's one question that many have wondered. Do the royals cost the government money, or do they make it money? For one, the royals draw tourist dollars as well as publicity for Britain. In 2017, it was estimated that the monarchy boosted the tourism sector by more than $640 million. While the sovereign grant has been growing, which means more money for the royals, the Crown Estate provides a huge sum of money to the government. Anti-monarchy groups don't really think the royal family brings in money. These groups might be onto something since they suspect that the monarchy actually costs the country about $400 million a year. Apparently it costs the government over $100 million annually to protect the royal family. Word on the street is that King Charles is trying to slim down the monarchy with fewer senior royals. He also talked about opening up more royal properties to the public, a move that could theoretically bring in more revenue. I can't see how this might be a smart business move, but I still do think the anti-monarchy groups might be onto something. Today we're counting down the top 10 ways the royal family paid the paparazzi to keep quiet. Starting off with number 10, Kate Middleton. As put together as this family wants to seem, there are always moments that are hard to keep away from the public, especially when you have the paparazzi constantly watching your every move. During a vacation with Prince William, Kate was caught off guard on a balcony in France. After pics of her topless during her sunbathing session were sold and published through French magazine Closer, it caused some serious drama. The royals were very upset to find out that the paparazzi was being disrespectful and invading their privacy during their stay at a French lodge. I'd be annoyed too. Can't even be at peace during your own vacation? That sucks. Kate has been trying her hardest to maintain a professional and regal persona, especially while outside when she knows there will be cameras. So it shouldn't be such a wild thing to think she's human and does regular human things while in the peace of her own space around her family. After the pictures were published, the family took the case to court because the photographer and publisher were profiting off pictures taken through invading their privacy. The court ordered defendants to pay damages to Kate and William. On to number 9, Prince Harry caught in Las Vegas naked. Now, we all know how hard it is to not become a chaotic human being while you're in Vegas, and Prince Harry is no different than us when it comes down to it. While in his own hotel room, photographers took some sneaky shots of the prince while he was walking around undressed. I guess the prince forgot to close all the curtains, or simply didn't have the paparazzi on his mind during his own vacation. The royals really do have it rough. They can't even breathe without remembering that one wrong or unregal move can be published within the matter of hours if caught. Harry has a special dislike for paparazzi and has even gotten into a couple of brawls with some photographers because of how fed up he would become from the constant amount of cameras flashing in his face. I get that the royals have a certain reputation they need to worry about, but sometimes expressing emotions can be freeing, and Harry has been one of the few royals who has made a point to do just that. As the younger prince, that just makes sense. He doesn't have as much responsibility as his older brother, so why not become a loose cannon here and there? Down to number 8. Now, this one is most definitely a little unhinged, but Prince Andrew's ex-wife Sarah Ferguson was part of a scandal thanks to the paparazzi that caused their 6-year marriage to end. Another instance of a royal being stalked by photographers during a vacay, Sarah was captured with a financial advisor having some intimate fun at her beach villa in Saint-Tropez while she sunbathed topless. Yikes. As a royal, this is definitely hard to defend. Not only was she cheating in broad daylight, but there were pictures circulating. The royals may be on vacation, but it seems like they will never catch a break from the paparazzi following them around, even while off royal duty. In number 7, thanks to the British press, we found out King Charles has been drinking alcohol since the age of 14, which is definitely underage. In the 1960s, the king was overheard by a journalist asking for a cherry brandy. The alleged story is that his friends dared him to go up to the bar and order a drink, so he ordered the first thing that came to his mind. Unluckily, the journalist sitting near him wanted to make this into a scandalous story, which got King Charles in serious trouble and also cost his bodyguard his job. As careful as the royals are known to be, it's no surprise that sometimes they slip up, just as other human beings do. You may not know this, but this rebellious king has broken royal protocols quite a few times during his time as prince. PDA is normally frowned upon, which King Charles has shown towards both of his wives, respectively, during each marriage. He has had oysters. Yeah, that's against the royal rules too, because seafood is usually avoided due to fears of food poisoning. But hey, if the king wants an oyster, who's gonna stop him, right? Charles was the first Prince of Wales to be granted a divorce with Princess Diana, even though it was never preferred that monarchs get a divorce. Number 6 on our list is Queen Elizabeth suing the Sun for publishing a stolen pic of Sarah, Duchess of York, and Princess Beatrice, which was meant to be used for their 1988 Christmas card. The 2-day early publishing of the Christmas message upset the Queen to the point where she filed a lawsuit for copyright infringement against the Sun, with the settlement costing them over $180,000. Although some believe public messages do not belong to anyone in particular, the Sun did send out a personal apology for the early publishing of the picture with Sarah and Beatrice, which was meant for the message on Christmas Day. This clearly meant a lot for Queen Elizabeth because it is not often we see the Queen go out of her way to call out people. She really takes her Christmas cards very seriously. You gotta respect it. Number 5 on our top 10 countdown, the invasion of privacy continues, causing Meghan and Prince Harry to take tabloids to court over their concerns more than once. As scary as it sounds, publishers have brought out the high tech, using drones and even helicopters in a very desperate and extremely invasive attempt to get pictures of their son Archie through the backyard of the couple's Montecito home. The couple, who stepped back as senior members of the British royal family, have made countless headlines ever since then, which naturally meant a lot of media and press was going to be all up in their business. But they really crossed the line by trying to use helicopters to see what the family is up to while they're just minding their business at home. And although a lot of people eat up any sort of news based around the royals, no matter how mediocre the story is, it should definitely not be normal for publishers to go to these extreme lengths just to capture a picture of these people. In the infamous docuseries Harry and Meghan, Meg talks about how she's been struggling with the paparazzi too. When she had started dating Harry, paparazzi would pay her neighbors to live stream what she was doing in her house by setting up cameras that would point to her backyard. That sounds super scary and overly obsessive, because what could be so entertaining about watching a person that closely all because they're dating a royal? I could never imagine caring that much. And personally, I think some new laws about privacy invasion within the media should be made, because that is too invasive. After the docuseries released, it made a lot of people realize that it may have not been the media attention the couple didn't like, as they insisted, but the lack of control over the kinds of stories being made on them. Funny enough, even after sharing their own narrative on stories, media outlets still found ways to control the narrative in a very different direction. They really can't win. In number 4, we all know how often Harry and Meghan have made the news headlines. Their story just seems to be very interesting for the public. But there also have been accusations that the family plans controversial stories in order to gain this attention. Leading up to the wedding of Meghan and Harry, a scandal involved Meghan's estranged father Thomas Markle for staging a photo shoot. The staged photo scandal, thereafter dubbed Markle debacle, created a massive PR headache for the royals. Markle Sr. claimed the saga caused him 2 heart attacks as well as worldwide embarrassment and ridicule while losing my relationship with my daughter Meghan and son-in-law Prince Harry. This father and daughter have seemed to bring their rocky relationship into the limelight a few times. Thomas even put out a statement that insisted his daughter never reached out to him or made any efforts to rekindle their relationship. This caused Meghan to send a letter to her dad, calling him out for upsetting her with his lies and for not communicating with her properly after she'd heard from a tabloid that he had a heart attack. Somehow, Mail on Sunday got hold of the letter and published it too. This caused a lawsuit to be filed against the publishers for acting dishonestly. This beef between the family feels almost embarrassing because they're airing out each other's business, which is quite the opposite of what the royals have ever wanted from their family members. But one thing about the royals, the English tea is always steaming hot, whether they like it or not. Number 3 on our list of top 10. Yes, our third Meghan-Harry story. The couple is clearly not shy at all from filing lawsuits against the press when inaccurate news stories are published about the family. There have been many misleading allegations published about the two, which was a leading cause for them to want to step down from their royal duties. Which, as we all know, made major news and has consistently kept the two in news stories, and it really is up to us to decide what we believe or not. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have claimed that they wanted a private, normal life, hence why they moved out London to LA. During this period of time, we've seen that the two have been doing everything they can to fight the press when they feel like the claims being published are completely inaccurate. After the passing of Harry's mom, Princess Diana, the media was overly obsessed with his every move, which had infamously caused him to even get into some physical fights with some photographers. The few times that it made headlines, it made the young prince seem like a rebel, and even though he may have been, he also just wanted some freedom, which ironically he didn't have as someone who has more power than most people his age. Honestly, Harry, I get it. There are times when you just want to be left alone, and being someone with that status is harder to do and harder to enjoy anything without wondering if it's going to be featured in a news story the next day. In number 2, Buckingham Palace doesn't usually comment on a majority issues. Instead, they only tend to issue denials for the most egregious. So when untrue statements were being made against Harry and Meg, they felt frustrated that the palace didn't put out any statements. The inability to correct what they see as inaccurate accounts in the UK tabloids apparently frustrated Harry and Meghan, the latter perhaps even more so. Which in a way makes sense since Meghan was a free-speaking actor and activist with her own social media account and blog. She has a tendency to stand up for whatever she believes in and has no problem defending herself, which might be why this couple has done exceptionally well in remaining relevant in the press. As many scandals have presented themselves throughout the timeline of this royal family's history, doesn't it make you realize how imperfect this seemingly perfect and regal family really is? The amount of things they do to make a point that they may be above us all and are definitely treated like such makes it interesting and somewhat entertaining to see how much of a mess this family can be, and the lengths they will go to with the press and media to try to control the narrative to maintain their reputation of being perfectly royal. But then again, no one is perfect, and when there are cameras all up in your face all the time, and even sometimes when you aren't even paying attention, it makes it even harder to find a balance of being yourself and being yourself for the cameras. What would you do if you had this sort of lifestyle that is available for constant criticism from the public? I think it would get so exhausting, which is why I totally get when some extremely famous people go out in disguise to feel like they have a normal life. And last but not least, number 1 on our top 10, The Crown. If you've seen this show, you know how juicy it can really get. This show has caused great controversy because of how much is exposed. Stories, family conflicts, affairs, and other scandals that became a public spectacle. But funny enough, some members of the family actually do tune into the show. According to sources, Queen Elizabeth saw all 10 episodes of the first season. She obviously approved of the type of content being publicized since the show just released a new season. If you're currently watching the show, let me know what your favorite season is in the comments. So that's a wrap on some scandals the royal family did their best to keep secretive, which admittedly is hard since any and all news on this family spreads like wildfire.